What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another edition of ManCave Astronomy. It's Saturday, January the 13th, 2013. Just want to do a little update here of got some stuff in the mail that I've been kind of waiting on, and just kind of wanted to do just an update and kind of review of some things of where we're going, what we're doing. As far as ManCave Astronomy, you can see I got the Meade LXD75 hanging out there. I've got the primary mirror out of the back of it, and I've got the primary mirror cell pretty much tore down. Excuse me. Waiting on my collimation kit to come in from Farpoint. Hopefully that'll be in this coming week. Should be anyway. And I just did a video on the AstroZap Dew shield that we got for it, which was very cool. I did get in another package of some stuff that had my Beta Iberian eyepiece in it. Had some feathering rings, had a adapter or two, and I just kind of wanted to make a video and just kind of go over some of the stuff that we got, kind of show you guys where we're going. As far as with this Meade LXD75 10-inch, and those of you out there that's got a Meade LXD75, hopefully this is putting a little spark back into the life of your scope, and if you find one used, maybe you'll take a look at picking it up. First and foremost, I guess to start off with is, as you can see, like I said, we got the primary mirror pulled out of the scope. We're gonna put a new center spot on the primary that comes with the Farpoint collimation kit. We're gonna put the new center spot on. That's why I went ahead and pulled the mirror out and go ahead and start kind of getting prepared for that, because that should be in this week. We're gonna do that, so I wanted to take a look at the primary and get a look at the rear mount cell and everything. I've got it pretty much all the way broke down. You know, no big deal, just 4 screws, pull it out, and you can take the adjusting screws, the little knobs on the back of it there. And a little word of caution, one of the reasons I had to pull the primary out was because I accidentally backed this out too far, and it actually let go of one of the binding screws in the back of the mirror cell, and the mirror actually kind of sprung forward, and I'll show you that here in a minute, why it did that. But you really want to be careful when you get messing around. Of course, anytime you mess with these, your scope's got to be collimated, and you know, you need to use your collimation tools that you have. I chose to go with the Farpoint stuff. Kind of got some pretty rave reviews with, you know, the Astronomy Shed, and you know, he is definitely by far way more OCD over collimation disorder than I am. But you know, I will say one thing. He really does a good job of explaining stuff, far better than I probably can, just because I've never collimated my scope yet, and that was the reason I'm doling into this, is with putting a camera on it and trying to do some astrophotography. You know, the more I read, the more I learn that the collimation is just as important as anything else that goes on with it. You know, if that scope's not in line, and you know, you're not collimated good, you're wasting your time trying to take a picture through it, pretty much. So anyway, but I accidentally screwed one of these adjuster knobs out too far when I was playing with it, and it popped the mirror forward, and I ended up having to take the cell out so I can pull the mirror back. And I figured, well, I've got to take the rear primary mirror cell out. I might as well just go ahead and tear it apart and get ready to, you know, center spot it. And I ran into some things that I wanted to share with you guys too on that, and that's kind of another reason I wanted to make this little video. Outside of this bringing apart and pulling the primary out, I've got the primary sitting here. As you can see, that's basically just the cell, the actual mirror, and then the holding plate. And the one thing I noticed is there's some cork board that they've got wedged in the holding brackets on this mirror backing. Actually, when you look at the back of your telescope, this is what you see, you know, in the center. And they've got cork that holds this. They've also used some black, I'm gonna say RTV, but it's actually black glass glue. And I've dealt with this stuff before in my job, replacing glass and stuff like that in the line of work that I do. And I'm gonna tell y'all what, that black glass glue that they use, that is some nasty stuff. As far as holding, you know, you can see I'm not scared to sit here and shake this thing. That mirror is not moving out of this bracket. And they've put a pretty good substantial, you know, spot here, here, and here, and all three of the you know, the mounts where the mirror actually sits down in. And I imagine they probably use some type of a very special press that they squeeze this thing down into and hold it and let that cure. Because I'm gonna tell you what, like I said, I've dealt with this stuff before, and I mean it is, there's no getting this mirror out of this bracket. So for you guys that are ever thinking about maybe trying to change your mirror, or if you chip your mirror or whatever, there is, or just want to pull your mirror completely out, there's no getting this out of this backing. You'll literally you'll break the mirror for one, or you'll bend this backing trying to get this glue to release. Meade did do an excellent job of that as far as I'll show you what that crack was here in just a second. As far as gluing this mirror to this backing plate, as far as securing that. So that's one thing that I wanted to just kind of show you. That crack that you just heard was, if you look at the back of your telescope, you know, this is sitting in the actual mount ring inside there, and then you've got this little plastic, and I know you're not supposed to touch your primary, but I'm gonna try not to. You've got this backing right here that fits inside of this aluminum. It's either steel or aluminum. It's probably aluminum, but you got this plastic backing piece that fits in there behind the mirror. And when I got this telescope, it was in really good condition, basically brand new. But after years, you know, it's probably 5 or 6 so years old. The glue that they put this plastic backing in, so the back of the mirror is not basically exposed. The glue is probably let go. They probably use some cheap model glue or something, because pretty much that's what I did the last time I tried to fix that. But that crack you just heard was that piece. You can see it's broke loose. It's broke loose there. So that is another issue. That was another reason I wanted to make this video. And that backing plate, basically I'm going to do the same thing I tried to do before. Is I'm going to take and run a bead of just some model glue around that, and ever so carefully take a very small screwdriver or something, and probably wrapped in a thin piece of cloth, and try to get under the mirror between this backing plate and the mirror, and try to use the mirror to kind of press down and pop that plastic backing plate back into place. I'll let you know how that turns out as I get to that. But the other thing you can see here is, and this is probably one of the most crucial things, that backing plate is probably not the biggest. If that thing comes loose, it's not really the biggest issue of all. As we mess with our adjusting knobs, you know, this mirror sits in the back, and then you turn your adjusting knobs, and 3 points of adjustment tilts and turns the mirror so you can get it aligned. The big issue that I seen, and I got looking at it, and that was one of the reasons I looked at it to pull the mirror out of the backing plate, was potentially replacing these screws. And I'm not going to knock Meade here, but you know, they use pretty much standard as cheap as they can get hardware. But I thought about replacing these screws with maybe some stainless steel screws or something like that, and that's kind of why I was looking at pulling the mirror out of this backing to change these screws, because the screw head actually screws into these through this way where the mirror is and sticks out, and then that's what gives you your anchor spot. So if you strip one of these, then for one, your adjustment is no longer either repair the threads on the screw, or your adjustment's not, you're going to be only left with 2 adjustments, and this thing's not going to hold, especially against that spring pressure. Basically your collimation's done. Your scope's no longer collimatable. If that's even a word, I'm going to say that just because it kind of sounds good. And you can kind of see on some of these they've got some wear in the threads, and that was kind of why I wanted to look into replacing these. But anyway, as it stands now, without you know, there's no way to get around that glue. I will tell you that now. If you try to run a razor blade or something down in there, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Messing with that stuff. The best thing to do is preserve and take care of these as much as you can, because as forward thinking and, you know, everything else that I am, that I don't see any way of really getting around that. So be very careful and be very cautious. That's kind of why I wanted to share that with you guys. Is, for one, I don't know that I really want to take this mirror out of this backing, just because I don't know that I'll ever get this heavy mirror. This thing is heavy. I'm sitting here propping my arm against the arm of my chair here just to hold this thing. But you know, it is a substantial weight, so they did a really good job as far as that goes, gluing it in. The only bad thing is you can't change out these screws if you ever need to. So just a little heads up there. The other thing too is, when you go to tear this apart, you can see I've got a white mark on the rim of the backing, and then I put a mark here on the mirror on the edge here, in case I was able to get this out. I could line the mirror back into the original position to kind of hopefully help with the acclimation. But anyway, that's not going to happen. The piece that you're maybe wondering about that is missing is this ring right here. This is the actual mirror holding ring, and it's got little rubber pieces that you know, protect the mirror, and those rubber pieces are actually what contacts the mirror, and then this ring locks down to keep it stationary in that backing plate. The hardware for this was pretty cheesy, pretty lightweight stuff, so I have yet to go to the hardware store and buy some new hardware for it. But this is kind of irrelevant at this point because I'm waiting to change out the center spot. But I just figured I'd show that to you. You can see the center spot, the black ring there in the center. Hopefully I'm not blinding you with the light, but the black ring there is just a decal. It's just a sticker. You can take some fingernail polish remover, and just kind of take a Q-tip and dab a little on there, let that saturate the sticker, and then it should come off the mirror. I wouldn't worry too much, and this is just my experience. You can kind of proceed as however precaution you want to go on it. But mirrors are not, you don't want to be picking at it with a screwdriver or something like that, an actual metal instrument. Just a Q-tip bud or even a toothpick, something wood. These mirrors are glass. You know, these things are made out of glass. They are finely polished surfaces to help with the reflection, and then of course the type of glass that they're made out of and the way they make them is what gives you the reflection. However, though, it is a very hard surface that's on this mirror, this primary. And like I said, as long as you don't take a small jeweler's screwdriver and go scraping across there to try to get that off, that sticker off there, If you use a toothpick with very light pressure, a Q-tip bud, the nail polish remover, as far as I know from everybody that I've, all the videos that I've watched, is not going to hurt anything. Some people are as anal to say you shouldn't even touch it. You can see I got fingerprints all over it. Like I said, it's glass, it's mirror. The mirror is actually pretty deep under a protected coating, but it is pretty highly polished, so I wouldn't go rubbing and wiping your hand across it. I would be pretty cautious as far as, I wouldn't take a paper towel and Windex and wipe this thing down. Just because if you do have any actual little pieces of dirt or something, it could put a scratch across there. I'm going to cover that when I do the center spotting, and then when we get into the acclimation, I call it acclimation. I don't know where I got that word from. When I get into the collimation of the scope, I'm going to cover all that and cleaning the scope and everything and whatnot. So that is pretty much one of the other things that I wanted to cover with you. So now, setting this aside, over here out of the way where it's protected, no one can step on it. Excuse me, my soon-to-be 7-year-old just walked in the room. Yes, what do you want?
What are you doing?
Making a YouTube video? What are you doing?
I'm gonna watching you.
You're watching me?
Mhm.
Yeah, now here comes my dog Reddy, my retired racing greyhound. She has to be the nosy one. Alright, I'm in the middle of a video. Can I get back to my video? Huh? Can I get back to my video? Kids, you gotta love them. Alright, back to on subject here. This is actually the rear holding cell for the primary. You can see the little lugs, that's where it bolts to the tube. And one thing that I did want to mention is this is aluminum. You need to be careful not to over tighten this, because the aluminum will break apart, and then you'll have to drill this out and put bigger screws in there. May not be too much of a bad idea if you're pretty savvy with the old drill and tapping dies and stuff and that sort of thing. Wouldn't really be a bad idea to beef these up a little bit, just because of the sheer weight of that mirror always pulling on that tube. I think these were 4mm screws that went in here. But anyway, this bolts into the back. We're looking at it from the mirror side. When you look down the tube, this is what you see. The mirror actually sits across this. The bolts, those screws that I was telling you, they run through here with your adjustments, and then these are your locking screws that you can lock your mirror down with. So that's basically what you see there. That's part of the piece that you were maybe missing when I was holding up that mirror cell and showing you that. So anyway, on to the next thing. Part of the package that I got, well, the package that I did get in, let's see, we already did the kind of the introduction on the Sony Nexum 5R, the new camera that I'm going to try to use to do some digital photography, some astrophotography, if you will. I've got in some rings, some adapting rings and some different things to adapt the camera to the eyepiece. I did get in I actually have a lens replacement adapter that I'm going to show you here real quick, and then I'm going to go through a real quick just breakdown of, we already covered what the focuser ring, the focuser draw tube, the threads that are on the top of that was a M54 thread that was on there, and we covered that when I did the video on the Beta quick lock, and how to get you a Beta quick lock put on your scope. And I've got something else I'm going to cover on that too, just a little insight. But I've got I've got that I'm going to show you real quick and just kind of give you an idea of kind of what kind of a setup I'm going to try to use with the camera. Maybe my subscribers and you guys out there watching these, maybe y'all can give me a little insight, because I've never really done astrophotography before. You can kind of tell me what works, what may not work, and just share a little bit of input. I appreciate all the comments that I've gotten. I've gotten some pretty good comments here lately. And I apologize for the delay in getting back with you. Things have been a little hectic around here. But anyway, credit due or credit's earned. So real quick, I'm going to show you the one of the things that I got in. The other one is still back ordered. Is I did get in one of my Bader Hyperion eyepieces. I got in my 17 millimeter. Comes in the nice little pleatherette, as they call her, or whatever, leatherette. I call it pleather. Which actually is a pretty nice little bag. You know, it's not like plastic. It's pretty nice. As you can see, it definitely fits the eyepiece pretty good. I'm sure you guys have probably looked around, but I just wanted to do a real quick, another little outtake on these, I guess. But this is the Hyperion 17 millimeter modular eyepiece from Bader. It comes with two caps, the little leatherette bag there, and it is for 1.25" and 2" 1.25" here, 2" sleeve here. I don't mess around with 1.25". I think it's kind of good way to put it, demeaning to the telescope. I've got a 10" telescope. I'm not going to be using 1.25" eyepieces. I had a little conversation with one of the guys that I ordered a lot of stuff from about that. But anyway, before I get off on that tangent. But anyway, this is it. It's good size. It definitely isn't as big as the 40 millimeter Meade 5000 eyepiece that I have. However, it is still a good, respectable eyepiece. And you can, I don't know if I can get the camera to show y'all this, but you can see inside here where this nose piece screws in. And I was kind of worried about that, thinking I may see a big black ring around that. But when you really get this thing up to eye relief, about 1 inch away, that black ring disappears. And it really looks good. The only one thing I do have a little bit of concern about is it is pretty blurry when you get it up to eye relief. You really can't see nothing through it. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to do in my telescope. I don't expect it, because if I hold it about 1 foot away or 1.5 feet away from my face, I can actually focus and see through it pretty good. So I'm kind of curious to see how that turns out. That's going to play into some of the astrophotography stuff that I'm going to talk to you about here in a minute. But one thing I did want to go over really quick is there's been a little bit of debate on that I had. I should say the debate was more or less with me, is this eyepiece has threads. I'm going to pull these little protector rings off. This eyepiece has threads on the bottom and up here at the top. This is a M43 thread. It's not a T thread. It's an M43 thread. And I'm just going to look at my deal here to make sure. Yes, it is a M43 thread on the top, the very top ring, where the top element is. This is a M54 millimeter thread, which is standard to what we have on our telescope. As far as our eyepiece focuser, this thread and our eyepiece focuser, the draw tube thread, is the same size, 54 millimeter, M54. This is a adapter ring that come with my telescope. Hopefully you guys got one as well, and it fits and screws directly on to the top of that. So it is a M54 thread, which is nice. That's a nice little spacer tube that I can use now with my eyepieces. It's a little forward thinking on my part as far as some of that went. But anyway, so there is no shadow of a doubt. That's an M54 and an M43 thread on the top of these two, or these two on the top of this eyepiece. We'll get into a little bit more of that here in a little bit. One of the other things that I did get was the feathering rings. I'm trying not to make this a long drawn out video. The feathering rings, as they call them. I did buy 2 sets because sorry about that. My battery went dead in my camera there. And anyway, we were talking about the Vader 17mm Iberian eyepiece, which is this guy right here. I showed you the threads on the top of it. And we got here, I bought the Hyperion feathering rings, 28mm, and the 14mm to go along with it, extend out the eyepiece. I'm going to put in, and in case those of you that haven't seen it, you just screw the set of elements out of the end of it. And I'm going to use the larger one, the 28mm eyepiece, or excuse me, feathering ring. And we just screw that onto the nose of it, like that. And then we just simply screw the first set of elements in, and now we've got a, if my calculations are correct, this should be a 10.8mm eyepiece now. Basically, went from a 17 down to a 10.8mm eyepiece, which in my telescope, with the focal length by the eyepiece, this should yield almost 100 times magnification. The one thing I did want to show you, and make sure I got you over where you can see it. The one thing I did want to show you is when you install the quick lock on your telescope by using the 54mm adapter to the SCT with the which is 54mm to T thread, and then you use a T thread to SCT thread, or 2-inch thread. It actually narrows the inside of the eyepiece right here where the quick lock screws in. It actually kind of chokes it down a little bit there, because nobody out there really seems to have a 54mm to SCT. You have to buy a collar piece to go in between. If I could find a 54mm female to SCT male, where this would screw directly onto it, I could cut out a piece in about $20. But it's no real big deal. But I did want to show y'all that with the extended pieces on the Hyperion, the Barter Hyperion eyepieces, when you put it in, you can see that the eyepiece doesn't go all the way down. It actually sits right against that step in the bottom of the quick lock right here. So essentially what happens as you add the other piece in, your eyepiece actually moves out to the quick lock, which is no big deal, because the quick lock will still hold it, without a problem. I've tried it with the 14mm adapter that they have for this. Is no big deal. It still sits all the way down flush. When you start putting the 14 with the 28mm, it adds on a good another little bit. And when you put it in, your eyepiece actually sits up higher. So I haven't had a chance to test it out in the field. to see whether it really makes a really huge difference or not. You know, of course, the focuser travels all the way in. You know, to be honest with you, I think with the elements being all the way down here at the base of the focuser, that step, in my mind, shouldn't be any big deal. And I'll give you a quick, you know, I was told, talking to one of the companies that I was looking at purchasing the quick lock, I was told that the back spacing, it was gonna, you know, set the back spacing off, or the end spacing, it was gonna set that off by, you know, 44 millimeters or whatever, you know, whatever this thickness was, which is about 44 millimeters. They were talking about, you know, you're gonna lose all that inward travel on your focuser. Well, to be honest with you, I haven't. Because if I had, I'm maybe losing half of that, maybe 20 millimeters. Because you can see I took the feathering ring off there. Now I'm just with the standard eyepiece. And really your last optic is right here at the edge, which sticks down farther. Which is, you can see it's almost the same distance as the quick lock there. So when you put that in, you essentially should be almost to where the top of your sight tube is at. So you're probably going to lose just a little bit there, not a whole lot. I don't really think it's going to be a big issue. Like I said, I haven't field tested it yet, so I'm just kind of going off of, you know, through my mind logic, as far as that goes. But you can see that, you know, that's still awesome though, to be able to have a quick lock on here. That is just, that is the cat's meow. So anyway, put the protective cap back in there, which you can snug the quick lock down there if you want to, but that's my new Vader Hyperion, excuse me, 17 millimeter eyepiece. I've got an 8 millimeter coming, which was back ordered, and should be here next week, if everything goes right. So looking forward to getting that. So I've got a 17 and an 8 millimeter eyepiece. I'm probably definitely going to purchase a few more of these eyepieces. I really like them. They're good quality. You know, I like the feathering rings. I like the idea of having multiple eyepieces at my disposal by just changing out a simple $17 or $18 ring. And I can change the 17 millimeter. Let me get you back over here more closer to where I am, so I can wave my hand at everybody. Like I said, I like having the option of just putting a $20 ring on here and being able to go on the 17. I did the math here. On the 17, if you put the 26 mil feathering ring, it goes to a 13.1. If you put the if you put the 14 millimeter eyepiece feathering ring on the eyepiece, it goes to a 13.1. The 26 goes to a 10.8 millimeter, and then if you combine both the 26 and the 14, you're down to a 9.2 millimeter eyepiece. So from there, if you just take out the bottom set of elements, in other words, the 1.25" set of elements, you have a 21.8 millimeter eyepiece, so almost a 22 millimeter eyepiece, just the top set of elements by itself. In my scope, and I'm trying not to lose and confuse anybody here, but in my scope, the 17 millimeter with the different rings in it, magnification is 17 millimeter eyepiece is 59 times magnification. With the 14 millimeter feathering ring installed, it's a 77.5 times magnification. With the 26 millimeter feathering ring installed by itself, it's right at 94 times magnification. And then with both of them together, it's a 9.2 millimeter eyepiece, which gives me 110.4 times magnification. And then if I don't use anything, if I take the front set of elements out and I use just the back set of elements, the 21.8 millimeter basically eyepiece, it's 46.6 times magnification. Just really quick while I got this piece here in front of me, the reason I chose these two, the 17 and the 8 millimeter eyepieces, if you notice at the most magnification that the 17 millimeter eyepiece, this eyepiece can render in my scope, which is focal length times the size of your eyepiece, in other words 9.2 millimeters, which is 110 times magnification. The 8 millimeter starting out just by itself is 127 times magnification. With the 14 millimeter feathering ring put in, it's 169 times magnification. With the 26 millimeter feathering ring, it's 203 times magnification, or it's a 5 millimeter eyepiece. And with both of them together, the 14 and the 26 feathering ring put together with the 8 millimeter, it's 236 times magnification. And the only bad thing is, and I wish I could have done something a little different here, but the only bad thing is if I take out all the elements on the nose and just use the back part, the large part of the eyepiece here, it is a 21.8 millimeter, which is the same. It's 46 times magnification. So just to kind of give you a little rundown, if you go to Barter Hyperion, there's a PDF form on Google that you can punch in, and it'll bring you up a chart from Barter, and it will give you all of the basically what when adding these focal rings, or they're not focal rings, they're feathering rings, these 14 and 26 millimeter rings, it gives you a chart that breaks down what the actual eyepiece goes to. So for $120 plus $40 for the two rings, I got an 8 millimeter eyepiece, a 6 millimeter eyepiece, a 5 millimeter eyepiece, a 4.3 millimeter eyepiece, and then with nothing, it's a 21.8 millimeter eyepiece. So for $150, I've got 5 different eyepieces out of the one. Same thing with the 17 mil. I get 5 different eyepieces basically by the combination of the rings, and I've got $300 in basically eyepieces with 2 sets, a set for each eyepiece of feathering rings. So not bad. I haven't seen a Meade eyepiece that was any good really for that, to be honest with you, except for that 40 millimeter, which really doesn't even work good on the scope. It's actually too low of a magnification to be useful, but it does do really good looking at the moon. So because you can see the entire moon with some magnification. But anyway, just wanted to show you guys that. That's the box that come in, the old Hyperion. It's 68-degree field of view. Really nice eyepieces for the money, for 120, 130 bucks. And then, you know, about $40 for the two different feathering rings. It's great. Really what I'm looking forward to is using the camera with the eyepiece for production photography, actually taking photos through the eyepiece and using the eyepiece as basically a magnification or a magnifying lens for the camera through the telescope. Prime focus, which is where the camera's all the way in the focuser and there's no real actual magnification, it's just the camera looking through the scope with no eyepiece. I don't know how good that's really going to work with these. I've heard that the Newtonians are really hard to do. You've got to have the camera so far into the tube that it's kind of hard to get focus on. So the Hyperion eyepieces, with the top eyepiece already being threaded, really works out good. Which brings me into the next thing I wanted to show you guys was this Foodox, F-O-T-D-I-O-X, Foodox. I think I'm saying that right. I'm pretty sure I am. This is the Sony Nex 5 camera adapter to T2, which is like a 42 millimeter thread in the face of it. And I'll show you real quick. This is my camera adapter that I bought. You just pop your lens off of the camera here, and this guy snaps right into the end of it. And for about, I don't know, something like $17, I think. It was less than 20 bucks. And this is made by Bader also. Barter, Bader, however you want to pronounce it. You screw this onto the end of it, which this is a 43 millimeter in the Foodox camera adapter. No, excuse me, it's T2, so it's 42 millimeters in the camera adapter. I need to go to a 43 millimeter, so I had to buy this little ring here. And what that lets me do then is I can screw the camera, if I hold my mouth right, there we go. I can now screw the camera directly onto the eyepiece and get a nice, really blurry image. Of course, I'm not exactly sure. Like I said, I'm pretty new into the astrophotography side of it, so I'm kind of not expecting that to be a crystal clear image. I need to get the telescope collimated and get everything back together. But as you can see now, I've got a good solid mount there. I think the only issue I'm going to run into is spacing this out to gain focus. And as you can see, that thing will click right in there. So that's ultimately what my goal. Sorry, get you over here where you can see what I'm doing. That's been ultimately my goal for the astrophotography, is being able to get to this point where I've got the camera set in, the screen, I can flip the screen around where I can see it, or I can use the cell phone or the touchpad to view whatever the camera's seeing. And it's locked in solid, it's not going to come out. And I can unclick, change my rings, put whatever I want to back in there. I can also just space out the eyepiece in the quick lock, snug the, like once I get it focused fairly well, just snug the quick lock back down, and as you can see, it's not coming out, it's not going anywhere. $700 camera, don't want it to hit the ground. So there you go. That's that. Trying to think if there was what the other stuff was that I got. I already told y'all I got the Farpoint auto collimator. Just waiting on the rest of the laser pointer and the Cheshire to come in, and the centering spot template, which all comes in the kit. Waiting for that to show up. One of the other things I did do, I'll take a moment to talk about if I don't have anything else. I'm pretty sure I didn't get anything else in. Nope, just those couple adapters. Now I can hook my camera up, and I got the one eyepiece. Alright, one of the other things that I did do while I was piddling playing around was I did a video on the old handy dandy battery charger here. And you know, I showed y'all where I spliced I took just fairly cheap, just you know, 6 to 2 amp manual battery charger. I've got 12 volt 6 amp or 12 volt 2 amp selector range. Did a nice good heavy duty splice in to power up the telescope, make sure it runs. The dew control is going to also need to be powered up, which I can't draw off the scope, so I had to come up with a way to power up my dew controller to activate my dew shields. I'm getting there in a minute. I'm trying to run through this in my head while I'm talking at the same time. One of the things I did do was I went to Walmart and just picked up a 12 volt power outlet cigarette lighter, you can see, and it's got a nice little 4 bolt mount. I only got 3 of the holes right, so it'll work. It's on there, it's stable. Just simply drilled a hole in the side of the battery case, took the battery case off here, drilled a hole in there to run the wire in, drilled the holes here to mount it, and bought a 98-cent pack of screws and nuts to mount it up here on my battery charger. And inside, the only thing I really did was I really just took the 2 wires, which are just slip, you know, just slip connectors on the inside. One goes to the amp gauge, the other one goes to the outlet power, or whatever you want to call it, the piece in there. Just slid those off, cut the wire, spliced in the cigarette lighter adapter, and just plugged it back in. And that was really the only thing that really had to be done there. And now I've got this goes out to the scope, so I can run the scope, and then as needed, I can draw power off of this also, which would work good in the 6 amp setting. I can still maintain power to keep the scope slewing, because at tracking speed, this thing doesn't draw much ampage. It's just when you do major movements, this thing is really going to pull amps. But the dew controller, not unless it's really foggy, I would think, out, you know, the dew controller shouldn't need to pull a whole lot of ampage. So I should be able to feed both of them off of this one battery charger without any problem. But I just wanted to show you that was just kind of my answer to the and it's a nice sealed cigarette lighter adapter. Just put a little piece of heat shrink there so where I drilled that hole, it doesn't chafe into the wire, and I don't arc this thing out. But that was just a little, probably $10 little modification I did in my battery charger. So now I can run scope and dew control off of this one battery charger without, shouldn't have any problems with it. Not field tested yet, but as soon as my dew controller shows up, I'm going to definitely turn everything on 110% and slew the scope and watch my amp gauge there and make sure I'm not redlining, and everything should be good. The other thing I did do is I bought a nice little handy dandy Stanley Flat Max little tool bag at Walmart to carry my battery charger. You can see it's got nice little cubby holes in here. I can put my eyepieces in and all that good stuff. I got that for like 20 bucks. Just been picking up little stuff here and there. The only other thing I did get in, I was thinking about, I did get 2 2-inch heat bands to go on my eyepieces. Keep those guys nice and warm. Matter of fact, seems like I do have one of them out. I'm gonna fit it on here just to see. See how it looks, how it does. Oh yeah. So right there, now I've got my dew heater on there, or I can move it up to the camera adapter, or I can even wrap it around the camera if I want to keep the camera a little warm. So I've got dew heaters for my eyepieces, and the reason I bought 2 of them, one of the things that was a real pain in the butt was my finder scope. If I can dig it out of here, and there it is. If I can dig it out of here, my finder scope kept fogging up as the telescope is sitting upwards. The back didn't ever really fog up very much, but this front big lens, that thing, I had a hell of a time keeping that thing defogged. So I bought 2 of these. The guy said that this should work to keep the finder scope, and they're just standard 2-inch eyepiece. There you go. And I should be able to keep that element nice and clear. So, hell nor high water, this thing ought to be clear to look through and be able to not have to worry about fog and dew and stuff anymore. Not fog, but shouldn't have to worry about the dew or anything else. As long as there's a clear sky, I don't care what the temperature is outside, I shouldn't have any problem being able to look through the scope. So that was a main issue that I had to get fixed. In order to do anything else, I had to fix the dew problem, and I believe I have conquered that. And the dew control that I haven't got in yet, it's a 4-channel 1000 oaks, so I can control the big dew shield for the primary, or for the corrector plate. I can turn it up as needed, and then of course the eyepieces are smaller, so I shouldn't have to crank the ampage out to those to heat those things up so much. I can keep those scaled back. You know, if I'm getting ready to move the scope within the next 5 minutes or so, I can kick the heat up on that thing real quick and clear off my viewfinder, and then when I'm done, I can just turn it off to save on some juice. And then I've still got a whole nother open port, which is probably going to end up, I'm probably just going to buy just a band, not a shield, but just a band to go around the back of the scope where the primary mirror is, to help keep any cold air from coming in at the back of the primary and fogging the primary up. One other thing that I am going to do, and I know this is getting long and drawn out, and a whole lot of, there's 9 million things going on here in the old astronomy shed man cave. But one of the other things I am working on is I'm going to flock, as they say, the tube on the telescope. I'm going to get some either some neoprene or some felt or something, and black the telescope tube out, and I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna show y'all how I'm gonna end up doing that as I do it. But that's gonna be something that's gonna be done along with the centering of the primary, collimating the scope. Once we do all that, then we'll get the scope out and actually start trying out the camera with the eyepieces, and try to do a few little videos through the scope, and try to snap you guys some pictures just through the scope, maybe some raw blurry looking stuff, but if nothing else, just give you a little bird's eye view of what it looks like, you know, me trying this stuff out. So please comment, please subscribe, stay tuned. It's exciting. We got a lot of stuff in the works, and we got a lot of stuff coming still. I'm tickled to get this thing set up and going. One of the other things that I didn't mention that I still got coming is the wireless, the Sky-Fi, the Southern Star Sky-Fi wireless adapter to run the telescope, and be able to do navigation and stuff with the telescope without anything, and not having to worry about the hand box. Basically, when you set the scope up, you get your North Star alignment done. You align to your 3-star, do your 3-star alignment for good accuracy, and then you click on the Sky-Fi, as they call it, and then you've got an application that you can run on your computer, your tablet, and basically you let it do all the work, and sit back and enjoy the views through your eyepiece. Hopefully that all is going to work out good. We got that to come, so we got 5 or 6 different things and probably another 500 videos to make. So thank y'all for watching. Appreciate the comments and the subscriptions, and we'll keep right on trucking. So till next time, later.